Hello, during today's session, you're going to learn what is casting on Python and how to implement it with two simple exercises. Saying this, let's go to our definition. So when we're talking about casting on Python, we could think in a kind of conversion from one data type into another. And the way that we could implement that conversion will be with constructors, such as int, string, and float constructors. Now, the two casting types that we can implement on Python are, number one, implicit casting, and number two, sorry, explicit casting. Now, if we want to explain these two types of casting, I consider that the best way that we could use, for example, is implementing the input function. And the reason is simple. If we think about one input function, in this case, one input that requests one integer number at our final user, and then we confirm that that we're receiving the same value that we're introducing. And if we validate the type, that type or class type that we are assigning for that value, just 1 second, we will confirm the next. We're going to confirm that no matter that what final user introduced in our console, no matter that the data type that we're receiving, that data or variable is going to be pre-assigned with one established value, such as one string class or a string data type, according to the input function and according to the input input rule for Python code. So saying this, let's run it and see. In this case, introduce one integer number, so I will type 89, right? And as you can see here, we confirm that we receive that 89, which is stored in our one variable, and is an integer initially, and here is one integer, but here we're seeing that change to a string type. Means that the implicit value or casting for any data that we introduce in our input function, that will be one string class or string data type. Now, what happens if we require to use or assign other class or the type to our value? Well, in that case, we could use other example by implementing one casting. Integer number, print our var2, and print the type from our var2. So as per you can see here in our first example, that was implicit one, we are using the same code as is on our new example, the explicit one. But the difference is that in this second, in the explicit casting, what I'm going to do is to add one float constructor, so that anything that user introduce in this input is going to be cast or convert into a float format. Means that even we type 89 here and we will verify that we received 89, the data type or the class assigned for that data, for that information, is going to be a float float format. So let's run it and verify it. Once more, remember, first example, introduce integer, and we keep that value 89. But our class is string, which really doesn't work for what we want to do eventually in our code. So let's go for the second example with one explicit 89, and here we have already introduced 89. Here we pass for one casting or conversion to one float format, which is a decimal. 89.0, which is going to confirm or print the type that we are casting for this case, which is float, according to the constructor that we have already used. So I really consider that this is more than enough to understand what is a casting on Python and how to implement it, and the two types of options that we could implement for our casting. So this is it, and see you on next videos.